Ladies and gentlemen, we know how the world works. If you say something sensible on the internet, it is forgotten before you've even finished saying it. But if you say something stupid, then it will spread far and wide. Check out this lady here that's had nearly 100,000 views for saying this. And now you can count yourself as being among those thousands of people that have benefited from her pearls of wisdom. Now, stupid isn't easy to fix, but it is easy to monetize. And today we're going to be looking at the scientific truth behind some rather bizarre monetized scientific claims. Claims that I first heard about 10 years ago when Gwyneth Paltrow started to speak. Now, if you haven't heard of Gwyneth Paltrow, she's probably most famous for saying this. Very profound. And those words stuck with me for a long time. And who can forget the time when she also dropped this knowledge bomb on the world? Gwyneth Paltrow thinks you can hurt water's feelings by yelling at it. In fact, she went on to make the bizarre claim that just being negative around water could have some kind of physical effect on the way the molecules behave and the structure of the water itself. It was a bold claim and it raised some pretty big questions, like this one here.
Do you talk to your water?
No, because I'm not crazy. But wherever there are crazy claims, there's money to be made. And there are also scientifically illiterate people around ready to do your marketing for you for free. Now, having said that on a totally unrelated note, let's see what this guy's got to say.
And I do believe that this plasma water is water's highest frequency, because what are the four phases of matter, right? You got liquid, solid, gas, and energy. And so in my mind, I'm like, plasma, if you're energy and you're going high frequency, I'm like, maybe this is how you do it. Maybe this is how you raise the frequency. And maybe that makes sense why people that go into the mother's water bath, they start crying.
Now, personally, I don't think any grown-up should be going into their own mother's bathwater, especially if she's still in there. That is a little bit odd. But other than that, he sounds perfectly sane and rational. So, what product is he unintentionally marketing for free?
Right? If you go and you get a analema and you put that in a bath, it changes the frequency of the water. Water always takes on the highest frequency, and then you jump in 70% water. What happens to you? Your frequency goes way up, and you have to deal with this rush of emotions and just whatever's going to come up as it goes through all your blockages.
So it seems he's marketing the analema wand, although I'm not sure he's pronouncing that right. It's either analema or anal emma. I've not quite figured that out yet. And if you've never heard of an anal emma before and you're wondering what it does, well, here's a quick 30-second guide.
So this is called an analema. Inside this stick is something called mother water. It takes a year to make this. So you can either use it to stir a glass of water for about 30 seconds,
okay,
or you can stir this entire pitcher. It will restructure the water. We now know beyond a shadow of a doubt that water will organize into these beautiful, like, hexagonal structures. It's not only more hydrating, it actually changes the charge and makes the water more viable.
So if you're scientifically illiterate and you want to buy a magic wand to stir your drinking water with, why not check out the luxury walnut version, which is a snip at just over $200? Or why not go big and structure the water for your entire house? It will only cost you just shy of $1,800. And if you think that sounds like a good use of your money, then also consider buying this original piece of art here that I drew. It's a 7-legged spider, and it's going at a snip for just $10 squillion. Now, we are going to look at the scientific origins of this idea of structured water in a minute, but if you're new to the topic, then please rest assured that this notion that water can somehow be structured or indeed come in forms that give it magical properties is growing day by day, and it's being pushed by well-meaning idiots on social media. Anyway, on a completely unrelated note, let's check out some of these tweets here. This lady tells us about the existence of hydrogen water that has built-in frequencies. I wonder if she'd like to buy my spider. This lady has discovered the ancient secrets for making water bioavailable to ourselves. Apparently, all you've got to do is pass it through a spiral. And I know she's right, because our next guest is somebody who's obviously definitely a scientist because they're wearing a white coat. They posted this on TikTok and they're using spirally vortexes to structure their water.
So tip number one, you want to structure that water. I like, as it's pouring into my glass, to actually swirl it to create a vortex that helps to structure the water.
This future Nobel Prize winner has told us that we've just been lied to about water, and it isn't in fact H2O. Apparently water is H3O2. Yeah, apparently spring water is a form of water that's beyond liquid, solid and vapor. Now, call me a bit of a cynic, but I wasn't sure about this claim, so I asked Google. And the AI response I got back actually agreed and said, yes, it is indeed the chemical formula of structured water. Oh my God. Now, I'm still trying to process what this guy said.
Structured water is really unique. It's this kind of coherent or intelligent water.
And after processing that, I do believe that, yes, a glass of water probably is intelligent compared to that guy. And I might apply that to the people that appeared in this video here, Ether, Water, Gardening, and the Secrets of the Universe. This video was on the Richard Vobes YouTube channel, and while you're watching it, I want you to remember that 241,000 people have watched his content and decided, yes, I'm going to subscribe to that. Anyway, the video went a little bit like this.
I was going to ask you, is water then conscious itself?
And water is very receptive to our consciousness, which is fascinating.
Because I understand that water can talk to water over distances.
Water, as Thomas pointed out, is the consciousness and the connection. In actual fact, I dare say it's the body of being that is bringing to the earth the creator consciousness so we can become co-creators.
You can fix your attention by pointing at a cloud and you can make it dissipate, which it's amazing.
I've done it hundreds of times over the decades for sure.
And water, the structure of water always wants to upgrade us, and it's not the other way around.
But one of the things I wanted to point out, plants are intelligent. They can see, they can hear.
I'll be back with more monologues and more wonderful guests with interesting ideas. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.
So we've established two things. One, there are some absolutely batshit crazy ideas going around about water. And number two, it's big business. If you simply Google water structuring device and hit the shopping tab, you can see a whole range of products designed to do something incredible and magic to your water. We have a plastic cup here for over £150. We have this cylinder here for nearly £1,400. We have this, whatever the fuck that is, for £560. And the list goes on. In fact, the whole thing is so depressing, I think I need another happiness boost. Oh, my goodness, she looked worn out by the end of that. Good job, lady. Anyway, so where have these crazy ideas spiraled from? Well, they've come mainly from two different people. One, a Dr. Emoto, who's no longer with us, so I'm not going to talk too much about his work, and a Dr. Pollock.
Dr. Gerald Pollock discovered that there's something called the fourth phase of water. He called it easy water, and this helps with the way that our cells work and our mitochondria and the way that they communicate with one another, important for longevity.
Well, not quite. Here's Dr. Gerald Pollock giving a TED talk about his structured water. Pollock observed the effect of a hydrophilic gel on water, and he put some particles in the water to make it easier to observe any movement that was occurring.
And sure enough, you can see that what happened is that the particles began moving away from the interface between the gel and the water, and they just kept moving and moving and moving, and they wound up stopping at a distance that's, well, roughly the size of one of your hairs.
Now, the area between the hydrophilic gel and the particles is called the exclusion zone, and the water that sits in the exclusion zone is known as exclusion zone water, or EZ water. But just to be clear, Gerald Pollock never once said to investigate EZ water, you had to be naked. Pollock also did another experiment. He placed a little tiny tube containing a hydrophilic surface into water containing particles, and he noticed that we would see a flow of water through the tube. Now, Pollock's observations and tests are perfectly reproducible and are perfectly accepted in the scientific world. However, his explanation for what is happening and the implications that can be drawn from that explanation are, how can we put it, less than well accepted. Pollock suggested that at the hydrophilic surface, water molecules would arrange themselves into a thin layer consisting of hexagonal loops, and then behind that layer, another layer would form, and then another and another and another, until this structure spread itself out throughout the water. He called this the fourth phase of water.
It looks something like this. You have a material next to to water, and these sheets of easy layers begin to build, and they build and build, and they just keep building up one by one. And so if you look at the structure of each one of these planes, you can see that it's a honeycomb, hexagonal kind of structure, a bit like ice, but not ice.
Now, of course, this is utter bollocks, because if the water molecules were in a fixed pattern, then it would no longer be a liquid and it wouldn't be able to flow. It really is utter bollocks. But it's not as much bollocks as this.
Water can feel emotions, anger, hatred, joy, love.
Brilliant. Anyway, people would take this idea of structured water and then use it as an excuse to design and sell really expensive pieces of shit on the internet. But in reality, exclusion zones can be found using a range of different liquids, and it can be explained using the polar nature of the molecules involved. In the case of water, oxygen atoms are more electronegative than hydrogen atoms, so the oxygen side of a water molecule will tend to be partially negatively charged, while the hydrogen end of the molecule will tend to be partially positively charged. Because of this, we will see the oxygen atoms being attracted towards a hydrophilic surface, having the hydrogen atoms pointing away from it. This might give the impression of some kind of structure, but it's really an incredibly thin layer right next to the hydrophilic surface where we see any kind of order whatsoever. It immediately breaks down into disorder past that initial surface contact. And if it didn't, it wouldn't be a liquid, it wouldn't be able to flow, it would be a solid. And you certainly wouldn't be able to create such a structure simply by swirling the water or, I don't know, sticking it next to a crystal.
And number 3, you can use crystals to help to structure that water for better health. Follow for more natural health tips.
Yeah, or don't. Anyway, one of the most bizarre implications from his work was to do with this little mini experiment here. And Pollock actually suggested that somehow this phenomenon might be related to the movement of blood through our blood vessels.
So the vessel is sometimes even half the size of the red blood cells. They're going to squinch and go through. Now, it requires quite a bit of energy to do that. And the question is, does your heart really supply all the energy that's necessary for driving this event?
This argument was jumped upon by a certain Dr. Thomas Cowan, who, if you judge him by this clip here, you might find him to be possibly one of the most unhelpful doctors of all time.
A lot of patients over the years have come to me and said they want help with their immune system. And the first thing I usually say to them is, you don't have an immune system.
Yeah, there might be a little bit of a gap developed there in his medical knowledge. Maybe he could do with a refresher. But he's jumped onto this idea of structured water to support an argument that he's held for some time, which is that the heart does not pump the blood.
Of course, everybody thinks the heart is a pump. And the question is, A, how can we conceptualize this to understand that the heart is not a pump? And then B, what does that have to do with saving humanity?
Now, they are some really, truly great and important questions. At least if you could ignore the fact that they obviously are not that. Anyway, if you want to learn more about Dr. Thomas Cowan and his seemingly unique take on medicine and the human body, you can head over to his website, where you can also purchase an anal Emma wand for $179.90. Bargain. So anyway, I reached out to the one and only Dr. Gerald Pollock, and I said, and I'm paraphrasing here, "Come on, pal, what the chuff in the whole of Chuffington Town is going on here? People are using your work to make some absolutely unbelievably ridiculous claims." And here's what he told me 3 years ago. In answer to my question, did he believe that easy water can be created through prayer, he said they are now studying what happens when healers, including remote healers, direct their attention to water. At the time, they didn't have enough data to determine whether or not there was an effect in this area, but as we can see from his response, he was very much open to the possibility. Now, 3 years ago, that really wasn't the response I was hoping for, so prior to making this video, I emailed him back to see if he had indeed collected more data, and if he would like to tell me more about people misrepresenting his work. And as we can see from what he sent me this time, he wasn't so open for comment, which is fair enough. I do appreciate him getting back to me anyway. Anyway, if you are brave enough to spend your hard-earned money on a water structuring device such as the anal Emma, what we need to do is make sure that we are being responsible and safe. So let's go back to one of our experts from before and ask them how we, as responsible adults, should take safety precautions when it comes to taking a bath in structured water that has been stirred with an anal emma wand.
And so I would say that this needs to be done carefully, and you also need to be aware of it in your mind and maybe even prepare for it, right? Go through some healing stuff and then go in.
So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. If you're going to take a plastic or glass stick and stir your bath water with it, then you must make sure that you have prepared yourself beforehand, be aware of what you are doing, maybe do some healing, and only then will you be ready to sit in that bath water. I think we've all learnt something here today.